Greetings, friends. How do you become socially isolated? I'm an isolated person. I have only 3 friends, and one of them doesn't even live in Canada. In Canada, I have only 2 friends in my hometown. I used to have plenty of friends, certainly a good handful. About 12 or between 12 and 20, people that I would have regarded as either friends or close acquaintances. And then as my 20s went by, and especially into my early 30s, that number dropped and dropped. And this was my own doing. It was, I guess you could say, my own fault. I distanced myself from them. There were a few cases where one specific case where they distanced themselves from me. I'll discuss that later. So I'm not looking for your sympathy. I just thought I would share my own insight here and give you advice. If you are looking to become isolated too, then I certainly got some good advice for you. And you may be asking, why would anyone want to become socially isolated? It's depressing. It's not much fun at all. And that's a good point. Probably no one would want to become isolated. But in any case, you can listen to what I have to say and maybe garner some psychological insight, because whether people want to or not, this is something that's happening a lot in our society. So I'm going to give you my list of the best tips to become socially isolated. Now, admittedly, some of these tips aren't actually things that they're not really tips, because they're just factors of your personality. They're just things you're born with. But others in the list are actual things you can do to become a hermit. Yeah, I'm a big loser, big L on my face. You can call me a stupid, skinny, weak, spoiled millennial. Get a job. Some people telling me to get a job. That's one way you can be isolated. Don't work. So I'm sure the comments will be so warm, and I can't wait for the warmth of the comments that I'm gonna get. But that's what you get for being honest. That's what you get. You're gonna get all the genuine people coming out to let you know what they think. But that's life. And anyways, that's another way you isolate yourself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Being honest, being passionate, speaking your mind. You want to have friends, you shouldn't do that. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So number 1, the most important thing you can do is live in a diverse neighborhood. You may do this to save money, but coincidentally, by saving money and living in a diverse neighborhood, i.e. a neighborhood with lots of immigrants, and I'm assuming you're a white person, but even if you're an immigrant, you will be isolated. But then again, the immigrants are more cohesive than white people, so they may not feel as isolated as the white people will feel. The white people are going to be displaced in their own hometown, like me. I'm living in this neighborhood to save money because I have businesses overseas, and I'm biding my time. Waiting for it to make a lot of money, waiting for my friend to recover overseas so I can go back home. So I find myself in this immigrant neighborhood. I have an amazing deal in this apartment I have. I have 2 rooms here, my own kitchen, my own bathroom. I'm on the top floor of a house. I have everything I would need, and so it is a good deal. But this neighborhood, I have absolutely no connection to it. I have no connection to any of the people in this neighborhood. It's not that I, wish them ill. I just don't really care for any of the people in this neighborhood. I don't care for the Sikhs who are feeding the pigeons all the time, and then the pigeons crap all over the place. I don't care for all the African music playing so loud and reverberating in my room. I don't care for any of this stuff because it's a different culture. It's not what I would call Canadian. But then again, if I was amongst whites in an all-white area, I could be wrong because I probably wouldn't have much in common with them anyway. So but there's gonna be more to talk about with people from a similar cultural background. That doesn't mean you're automatically not going to be isolated. So I know it goes. I'm not saying it's an extreme solution, or I mean I'm giving advice on how to be isolated here, right? We want to be isolated. Don't you want to be isolated? Number 2, be an intellectual. This is probably the most historically tested means to become isolated. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm so smart, I'm so wise, but I mean, at least I spend a lot of time in books and studying things and thinking, right? So at least by that definition, I'm an intellectual. Some intellectuals are really stupid. They get it wrong all the time. Maybe I'm stupid, maybe I get it wrong all the time, but my mind is active mentally, and I'm thinking, I'm reading books, I'm reading history, religious stuff. So you're automatically going to be isolated, and that's not just from your decision to take time aside to study, but it comes from the very nature of being interested in thinking. There's going to be an aversion to the physical world and a preference for the inner world, the mental world. And that's going to mean you're going to be more alone. So number 3, be a man. Because men are obviously going to be more isolated than women, because men are more individualistic than women. And I suppose when I said that being an intellectual, that means automatically you're going to be a man. But then again, not all men are intellectuals, of course. Men are automatically going to be slightly more isolated. But of course, lots of men, like I see the Portuguese in this neighborhood, I think they're quite at home. They do construction, they have all their construction buddies, they come home from the job, they go to the bar, they're having a great time. It's wonderful for them. Number 3, be a conservative. Or at least, I know I'm not a conservative in every single respect, but generally I have a conservative outlook on life. I didn't used to. I used to be more of a liberal, but I used to have more friends when I was a liberal. Now I'm a conservative and I have almost no friends. Not good. You should stay a liberal if you want to have friends. At least if you grow up in a liberal city like Toronto. Maybe that's not the case if you're from somewhere else outside a city which is more conservative. And this includes being red-pilled on women. Of course, I don't need to go into too much depth here. I've talked about how men and women can't really be friends. This is just history. This is just biological fact. Men and women can't really be friends. Maybe just watch my video on that. I talk at length on this topic. I used to have plenty of female friends. Of course, now I would say those weren't real friends because they can't really understand you. You can't really rely on them. I could go on and on there, but I just want to skirt over the main ideas here. I don't want this video to go on forever, because there's other things to discuss here. So I distanced myself from my former female friends. There wasn't any negativity. There wasn't any falling out. But I started posting red pill stuff on social media, and obviously some of them would have seen that. And so what's the expression? The cat is out of the bag, or whatever the expression is. So so they know what my views are on women, and there's nothing negative. That doesn't mean that men and women cannot get along. That doesn't mean that they can't be in each other's presence. That's not even necessarily saying that a husband and wife can't have a good relationship. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying a friend is something like a brother. I mean a real brother. I don't necessarily mean you may or may not have a good relationship with your physical, biological brother, but I mean in the concept of brotherhood. That is what I mean a friend to be. So that is, of course, naturally a rare thing. And therefore, if you see that, if you're an intellectual, then of course you're going to value your real friends, and of course your real friends will be a small group. But I'm not trying to say it's necessarily a good thing to have no friends or very few friends. I'm not necessarily saying that's good. Of course, this is my advice on how you can be an isolated hermit. Oh yes, oh boy. So this is in this case of being a conservative, this is the one case of someone who did distance themselves from me, or at least that is my assumption. I don't really know, but I had a very good friend. I don't think there's any harm in saying his first name. I mean, I don't even see him anymore, but his first name was Peter. So, Peter, if you're watching this video, this is for you. There's no negativity on my part towards Peter, but for some reason, Peter ghosted me beginning in January of 2008. Well, that was the last time I saw him, was about a year and a half ago. So I know it's only been a year and a half. And Peter is about 20 years older than me. I guess he's in his 60s now. I knew him for 15 years because I worked at Fort York, and he was working there too. And so he's older than me, but we got along very well. And he likes beer a lot, and he likes smoking cigarettes, and he likes the marijuana too, and so when he was an intellectual too, but he's a Virgo, and he's a food connoisseur, and obviously knows a lot about history, and we just had a lot in common. And he's a joker, and he was a great guy. But anyways, I don't know what happened, because we were great friends. We would hang out at least a few times a year, if not once a month, for the past 15 years. That's basically how it's been. And then since 2016, when a lot of people, I think, not just me, had their red pill coming out, because the Trump phenomenon encouraged a lot of people to, to wake up from this liberal brainwashing. And that was sort of a moment for me to wake up. And I started posting red pill content. And I started talking about red pill things with him in conversation. And I knew he didn't agree because he's a liberal. And he would still maintain the line about, oh, well, minorities are poor because of circumstances. And I would say, well, it's their decisions, it's other intrinsic factors. But that's just giving you an example. But there was never any negative conversation. We had our slight disagreements, but everything was always good. So I really don't know why he ghosted me, because I've called him many times. He doesn't respond to any of my text messages, to any of my messages. I've called him dozens of times. It's like he doesn't exist anymore. I started to think, did he die? Because he likes the booze, and he's getting on in years. So did he have some health issue? But then why would his phone be ringing? So I don't know. His phone is still ringing. So I don't know what happened with Peter. I don't know why if he had a health issue, but I mean, you should at least tell me that you don't want to be friends anymore, so I can have closure, and then you don't have to have me keep calling him every now and then. Obviously I barely try anymore, but it's just really ridiculous, because I find that kind of cowardly to not tell someone what the deal is. Just tell someone, like, hey man, we can't be friends anymore. You're conservative, I'm a liberal. I don't agree with you. It's just not working out anymore. I'm sorry. It's like, okay, that's fine. Then we go our separate ways. But he's just trying to pretend like I don't exist anymore. I don't know what happened, but my theory is that Peter didn't actually want so much to distance himself from me, but someone else, and I don't want to speculate too much here because I don't really know, but I feel like someone else who may have been female, I've said too much already, got to him and influenced him. I'm a bad guy. Don't hang out with Freethinker Silver, Peter. He's a bad guy. He's an influence. I would be very disappointed in you, Peter, if I knew that you were hanging out with that misogynist, that racist Freethinker Silver. So I don't know. That's my running theory. It could be wrong. And again, if Peter hears this, I'm extending the olive branch. We can still be friends, Peter. But then again, this is a list on how you become socially isolated. So actually, what I've been telling you is wrong. I made the mistake. I should have just let it go. I should have just not tried calling him anymore. When someone doesn't respond to your text messages, oh, okay, just let it go, and then you'll be more isolated that way. So number 4, be passionate. This means passionate about speaking the truth, speaking your mind, and also having rage. I have a lot of rage sometimes because I hate society. And no, I'm not advocating violence, and this is probably not wise for me even to use the word hate, because of all the hate speech stuff. But I hate society. I think society is Babylon. And I hate the fact that I've been lied to by all the institutions, by the media, by my public school and university that indoctrinated me with all of this crap. And I think it's healthy to have a negative reaction against that. But you do that, and you're going against the flow, you will be isolated. Number 5, have a distaste for alcohol and bars, and also have a distaste for coffee or tea and coffee shops and places where people sit down and drink their coffee and tea. I don't like alcohol. I think it's a poison. I think it rots your gut. I think it's bad for your liver. But who am I to say, because I've done other things that are bad for my body too, so that's all good. But I'm saying, if you don't like alcohol, you're not going to find yourself in bars. You're not going to find yourself in social situations as much. Alcohol is primarily a social drug, although people do drink it on them, alone. That's true, and it's not that I hate the feeling, but I don't like the feeling. After an hour passes, it doesn't make me sleep well at all. I can't take it. I can't take it for my fragile, skinny system can't handle it. What do you know? I just wanted to save my liver, but you pay the price for that. You pay the price for trying to save your liver. You will be shunned. No, you won't be shunned, but you just won't find yourself in social situations as much. And what do people do these days? What do young people do? I don't even know, because I'm not that young anymore. But what did you do? You to meet people, you go to bars and clubs. You spend a lot of money in drinking bad stuff for your body. What's the alternative? Isolation. It's like you're caught between a rock and a hard place. And then caffeine and coffee, that's not so bad for you, but I don't think caffeine's really all that healthy for you either. I know some people say, some coffee is good for your heart. I don't know. It gives a nervous energy. Nothing wrong with green tea every now and then. Maybe once or twice a week I might have some green tea if I need a little energy boost. So nothing wrong with green tea. That's okay. But I cut these things out of my life. And so I have no desire to sit in a Starbucks or Tim Hortons. We have Tim Hortons in Canada. It's all over the place. Number 6, be born into a small family. I only have one sibling, and I'm not very close to that. We're on good terms, but we're not particularly close. I see them a few times a year. I have one cousin who lives in California. That's about it. So not much opportunity, and I know a lot of people that doesn't make a difference even if they come from a big family. It's like, I hate my family. I hate all these family functions. Yeah, that's true, but I'm just saying, it's not even an option in my case because I came from such a small family. Number 7, get addicted to weed. Yeah. Well, I've talked about how I tried to cut it back, and I have for the most part, but since the age of about 19 or 20 until relatively recently, I was like a daily user of cannabis, and I still sometimes am a daily user. Like I said, I try to cut it back for health reasons, and for it's not good to be relying on something to give you a certain feeling, but obviously it's less of a social drug than alcohol is, or perhaps caffeine. I don't know. So it's going to enable you to feel more comfortable in your hermit cave. So if you want to be socially isolated, weed is going to make that easier. It's going to make it more inviting and welcoming to continue your hermit habits. Number 8, don't get a normal job. Get a job, Silver. Some people like to tell me that. Yeah, well, I have companies in Ghana. I have these investments over there, which could be very profitable. And that's the whole reason I didn't get a job here. But some people don't like the fact that I'm just lucky in that sense that I didn't have to get a job. And I'm very blessed in that sense. I know, very blessed. You can call me a lazy, spoiled millennial. I'm not even going to put up a fight there. I don't think I'm actually lazy, but I get what you're coming from. I get it. Okay. Yeah, take your pot shots. Okay, so I don't work because I hate this frickin' city, Babylon. And I did work in museums. I did run a language school. I don't need to tell you all about that stuff. Here in Toronto, I did do that. It's not like I was completely out of the workforce my whole life. But obviously, those former pursuits did not go anywhere. And I don't want to work for the corporations. I don't want to work for the man. I want to be my own boss. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't have too many options. So yeah, I've been lucky. I had money from my grandpa from when my mom passed away. She gave me an inheritance. So that's how I've been able to do this stuff. That's why I'm isolated. Partly why. Number 9, spend too much time on the internet. That doesn't need much explanation. I spend too much time on the internet. I have a YouTube channel. The internet is a drug. It is addictive. It's something that draws you in, draws your attention. Clickbait from one thing to the next. Number 10, enjoy solitude, dislike crowds. This just has to do with, again, like your own psychological disposition. Are you, how extroverted are you? How introverted are you? It can be stimulating to briefly pass through a crowd, but I don't like to remain in a crowd. I don't even like going down to the Toronto waterfront anymore and just hanging out there because of the people passing by. I like to escape people. I try to get into the ravines where the bike paths are, because that's where some of the only places you can experience nature. I try to get away from people, and I live in a city with several million people. It's a ridiculous task. I'm not even meant to be in this city. I feel like this is the wrong place for me to live, but this is my home. I would be even more isolated I guess this is a list on how to be more isolated. So I guess I should leave Toronto. I should go to a small town. But then again, it would be more white. So then I might make friends more easily. So I think that might, but then again, would I really make friends with white people that easily? I mean, I think I'm just sort of idealizing that because I know how bad it is to live in a diverse area. And so I idealize how nice it would be to live in an all-white or mostly white neighborhood. But the fact is, I'm not a working class white. I'm not an upper class white. I'm just an intellectual, middle class white guy. I would feel out of place probably anywhere. Number 11, travel. This is, of course, one of the best options because automatically by traveling, you will be amongst foreign peoples. And I mean, I've talked about living in a diverse city, but this is even putting that to the max because now you are actually in a foreign country, so you will automatically be alone unless you're traveling with other people, but you will be alone. And then if you spend time in another country, your bonds with your home country will become weakened. So then when you come home, you'll feel even more out of place. You will really feel detached. See my video, Total Freedom is Terrifying. I talk about travel and how I was privileged, in a sense, to travel a lot during my 20s. And it was terrifying. Okay, number 12, and my final pointer. Be socially awkward. If you want to be isolated, you should be socially awkward. And this is the only thing on the list which I fail to do well. I actually think I have fairly good social skills. I'm not excessively autistic. So if I was a real autistic guy, then I would have 0 friends instead of only 3. Then I would have claimed the total psycho hermit prize, but just couldn't quite get it. Not yet anyways. So friends, that's my list of recommendations on how you can become socially isolated, on how you can become a total hermit and experience depression and anxiety. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. If you have anything that you think I left out of the list, then feel free to share your advice in the comments below. Hasta luego, amigos!